Welcome to Conspiracist. Today, we're undertaking a deep dive into, well, a pretty compelling and often debated hypothesis.
Which is?
The idea that governments, maybe across the globe, are intentionally hiding evidence of actual mind-reading technologies.
Yeah, that's a big one. And obviously the implications are huge. Privacy, autonomy.
Exactly. So our aim here is to keep this strictly professional, really objective. We want to evaluate the information we have, the reasoning behind these claims.
Right, no sensationalism, just looking at the sources.
We'll be drawing from our research to understand, the current state of things like brain-computer interfaces, the science behind it.
And how that connects, or maybe doesn't connect, to this idea of government secrecy.
So for this deep dive, where should we start?
I think we need to begin with the science itself. What do we actually know about brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, and neural decoding? What does the literature say?
Okay, good starting point. We looked at some scientific literature, including an article from PMC, PubMed Central. What are the current capabilities? What can these things genuinely do now?
It's a really important question. And that PMC article makes a fascinating distinction right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, between what gets marketed, consumer neurotech, and devices that are actually detecting and interpreting brain signals.
Oh, okay. So there's a difference.
A big difference, apparently. The article suggests many consumer gadgets probably respond more to, electrical activity in your facial muscles, not your brain waves directly.
Right. So if I tense my jaw or furrow my brow.
Exactly. Stronger electrical signals, easier to pick up than subtle brain activity.
So when we see ads for consumer mind-reading devices, that PMC article suggests maybe a bit of skepticism is warranted.
Definitely. It mentions Google's alter ego device as an example.
I think I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, it looks like it's interpreting thoughts, but it's actually detecting tiny muscle movements linked to preparing speech. Subvocalization, basically.
So you're silently saying the command inside your head, and it picks up the muscle movements.
That's the idea. Which is, clever tech, but it's fundamentally different from reading a spontaneous thought.
That really clarifies things. So the idea that a government could have secretly weaponized that kind of tech for mass mind reading seems, less likely based on this.
Based on that specific mechanism, yes. The leap from detecting micromovements to decoding complex internal thought is still pretty huge.
But the PMC article doesn't stop there, does it? It acknowledges that real neural decoding is advancing.
It does. Genuine neural decoding, trying to interpret brain signals to understand intent or thoughts, is definitely progressing.
But it's not like we can just plug someone in and read their mind like a book.
Not even close, at least not based on the public science. Current techniques are mostly focused on specific tasks in controlled settings. Decoding the sheer complexity of everyday thinking is still a massive challenge.
And this progress, even if limited now, raises ethical questions.
Absolutely, which the PMC article also highlights. And that leads us nicely into the whole concept of neurorights.
Right, neurorights. We looked at a report from Perseus Strategies that focuses on this, especially the work of the Neurorights Foundation. What are neurorights, essentially?
Well, think of them as an extension of existing human rights, but specifically for our brains and our neural data. The Morningside Group and the Neurorights Foundation are advocating for this.
And the Perseus Strategies report talks about consumer neurotechnologies.
Yes, it defines those as wearable devices. Things you can buy off the shelf that collect neural data without needing a doctor or technician involved.
Okay, but what makes neural data so special? Why does it need its own rights? Isn't it just data?
But it's uniquely personal. The Perseus Strategies report really emphasizes this. Your neural data is tied to your specific neurobiology. It's uniquely you.
And it can reveal things you might not want revealed.
Highly sensitive things, health information, for example. The report mentions how even consumer EEG devices can potentially pick up indicators for conditions like epilepsy.
Wow.
And it suggests that in the future, these devices might get better at helping diagnose a whole range of mental and neurological issues.
That's a lot of deeply private information. Does the report say anything about current legal protections? Are we covered?
That's the concerning part. Both the Morningside Group and the Perseus Strategies report point out a real gap. There aren't really comprehensive international laws specifically designed for the unique risks of neurotech.
So existing data privacy laws like GDPR might not be enough.
They might not fully address the specific sensitivities and potential uses or misuses of neural data. It's a unique category.
And what did Perseus Strategies find when they looked at the companies actually making these consumer devices? How are they handling our brain data?
While the findings weren't exactly reassuring, the assessment suggested that many companies aren't being fully transparent about what they do with the data,
And the protection measures.
often lacking. The report looked at the policy documents of 30 companies and found only a few committed to basic safety stuff like anonymizing or encrypting the data properly right when it's collected.
That doesn't inspire confidence. Did the report mention any specific devices?
It did, yeah. It used the Newfany headband as an example, based on info from Newfany's own website.
What does that do?
It's described as a 6-channel EEG device. It gathers data from different brain areas to give users insights into things like focus or stress levels. It even uses neurofeedback, like adjusting music volume during meditation based on your focus.
Interesting. But we should also remember the limitations of EEG, right? Something we saw mentioned in a PBS piece on brain scanning.
Absolute crucial point. EEG is great for seeing general patterns of electrical activity on the scalp, like brain waves. But it's not great at showing detailed brain structures or pinpointing exactly which deep region is doing what. It gives a broad overview, not a precise map.
So even with these devices, getting specific thoughts is still a challenge.
It's a very significant one, yes.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit. It's clear from looking at places like Reddit, we saw threads on our Change My View, Bartek, Singularity, that the public is definitely thinking about this stuff. What are the main worries people are expressing online?
There's definitely a lot of anxiety out there. In that Change My View thread, people were really worried about privacy invasion, obviously.
they can.
But also about misuse and this feeling of maybe losing control. Like, can you even turn off mind reading or mind sharing if it becomes possible? One user literally asked about the right to just switch it off.
That hits on a fundamental fear, doesn't it? Losing your cognitive liberty, the privacy of your own thoughts.
Exactly. And another point that came up repeatedly was the dual use problem.
Meaning
That even if technology starts out beneficial, say, helping people communicate, it could potentially be twisted or used for harmful purposes later on. That's a common thread in these discussions.
And the other Reddit threads, Churtik and Singularity.
The Churtik discussion was focused on reports about portable AI that could potentially turn thoughts into text, non-invasively. Yeah. And the reactions. Big concerns about things like thought crime. The societal impact if your unspoken thoughts could be read and judged.
Orwellian is the word that springs to mind.
Pretty much. And the Singularity thread took an even longer view. People were discussing whether advanced mind-reading tech could mean the absolute end of privacy as we know it.
The end of privacy? How?
Some were speculating about methods that wouldn't even need chips or implants, maybe interpreting brain activity using like advanced waves or something non-invasive from a distance. Pure speculation, of course, but it shows the extent of the anxiety.
It definitely shows these technologies tap into deep-seated fears about control and surveillance, which kind of leads us to the historical context, right? The government secrecy angle.
Yes. And it's really important here to be careful and critical. People often draw parallels between mind-reading fears and other conspiracy theories.
Like MKUltra.
Exactly. We know from declassified documents, like those on foia.cio.gov, that the CIA's project MKUltra was real. It involved research into mind control, psychological manipulation, drugs, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
So there is a history of government interest in this sort of thing.
There is. But, and this is but the understanding of the brain and the technologies available back then were vastly different.
Right.
So concluding that because MKUltra happened, the government must now have secret mind-reading tech. Well, that's a massive leap without any actual evidence connecting the two.
It shows historical interest, not current capability necessarily. What about other theories people sometimes bring up, like chemtrails or UFO cover-ups? How do they fit in?
They often get brought up because they share that core theme of alleged large-scale government concealment.
Okay, the theme is secrecy.
Precisely. The chemtrail theory claims secret atmospheric spraying, despite scientific explanations about normal contrails. UFO theories allege hidden evidence of extraterrestrials. Think Roswell or Hangar 18 narratives.
So people see those stories, believe the government is hiding big things, and then think, why not mind-reading tech too?
That seems to be the connection people make. It's about a general distrust and the idea of hidden information. But again, for both chemtrails and UFO cover-ups, there's a lack of credible, verifiable evidence supporting those specific grand conspiracy claims.
Just like there's a lack of direct evidence for a current government mind-reading conspiracy, the link is the narrative of secrecy, not concrete proof.
Exactly. It's about the pattern of the claim, not a demonstrated reality.
Okay. Now, slightly different angle, but related to the mind. Telepathy. This comes up sometimes. What's the deal with telepathy research?
Well, telepathy is generally defined as mind-to-mind communication without using the known senses. There's definitely been historical interest and attempts to study it scientifically.
Like using Zener cars or those Gansfeld experiments.
Yes, those are classic examples trying to test for extrasensory perception under controlled conditions.
But
The scientific consensus is pretty clear. There's no conclusive, repeatable evidence that telepathy, as defined, actually exists.
why not? What are the problems with the research?
Critics point to a lot of issues over the years. Things like flawed experimental designs, maybe sensory leakage, like unintentional cues, researcher bias influencing results.
And the file drawer effect?
Right, the tendency for studies that don't find anything interesting to just not get published, which can make the few positive results seem more significant than they are. We saw discussion on the challenges of replication in parapsychology highlighted in academic critiques, too.
So mainstream science is generally skeptical.
Very skeptical. Outside parapsychology circles, claims of telepathy are usually explained by things like fraud, coincidence, self-delusion, or known psychological biases, not actual mind-to-mind communication.
Okay. One last perspective we encountered was from Amazing Facts, discussing thought crimes, but in a religious way. How does that fit?
Yeah, that piece was looking at thought crimes from a purely theological standpoint. It was contrasting human judgment, which can only see actions, with divine understanding, which supposedly knows inner thoughts.
So nothing to do with government surveillance tech.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It uses the term thought crime, which obviously resonates with the fears we've discussed, but the context is completely different. It's about religious concepts of sin, conscience, and divine judgment.
So it's important not to mix up theological ideas with claims about actual government technology.
Absolutely crucial distinction, different frameworks entirely.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. This hypothesis about governments hiding mind-reading tech is, well, complex.
Definitely multifaceted.
We've seen that current BCI and neural decoding tech, based on the science, is still quite far from the kind of mind-reading often depicted. There's that gap between consumer neurotech and real brain signal analysis.
A significant gap. And we've seen the very real and growing ethical concerns around neural data privacy, leading to calls for neuro rights.
And the online discussions clearly show public anxiety about misuse and loss of privacy, reflecting those ethical concerns.
Then there's the historical context. MKUltra shows past government interest in mind-related research, but doesn't prove current mind-reading capability.
And other conspiracy theories like chemtrails or UFOs mostly share a theme of secrecy rather than providing specific evidence for this particular hypothesis.
Right. And telepathy research remains scientifically unproven, while theological discussions of thought crime are in a totally separate domain.
So overall, while the technology is advancing and the ethical questions are urgent, the specific claim of a current, concealed, widespread government mind-reading program lacks verifiable evidence. Critical evaluation is key.
Absolutely. And the rapid pace of neurotechnology development means we need to keep having these ethical and societal conversations regardless of any conspiracy claims. The implications are real enough without hidden programs.
That's a really important point to end on. The known advancements are profound enough. Thanks for listening to Conspiracist.